I never would have imagined halfway through this year that my newsletter business that I just started would be paying my mortgage. You know, email is dead, right? A lot of people are saying, and I got to tell you, it is so not dead. If you have an audience that wants to hear from you, email is still one of the absolute best ways to convert that audience to your offers. But today I want to specifically talk about this newsletter business, why it's booming and trending and everybody's talking about it, and how you can get started. I like to tell people to set a goal of maybe $1,000 a month for your newsletter. For some people, if you make 100, it could be massive for you. And some people will blow past that and make six figures, although that's a very small number. For me, I became a bestseller with my newsletter 6 months from the day of my first paid subscriber. This was this year. And that is what lit my fire. That is what really got me down the rabbit hole again on emails and email sequences and funnels and newsletters. And I started an ebook business, and now the ebook business is enough to pay my mortgage separately on its own too. It's all coming from the same thing. It's all coming from basically creating some sort of content and sending it over email. And that's what a newsletter is. This reminds me so much of 2010 to 2016-ish, when email was one of the biggest drivers of my entire business. But really back then, it was emailing our blog posts, which a lot of people still do and still get results, and broadcasting offers. You know, we've got this thing coming up, we've got this sale coming up, and you would think that that has gone away, but it hasn't. Now, I want to add a couple little caveats here before I tell you how to start a newsletter that can actually make money. And that is, one, everybody's results are going to be different. My results should not be considered typical or guaranteed, because we don't know if we're going to work the same way or if we're going to have the same niches. So that does matter, right? Who you're talking to. Also, I'm on the mature side of things. So I think if you're at maybe an under 40 creator, you need to look at where's your audience at. That's why a lot of people are doing Instagram, which can still drive to a newsletter. On the younger side, they're doing TikTok, they're doing things like that. But let me tell you, my generation, especially the over 50s, and I'm only saying that because I am over 50s, we're still using email. That is still a big part of what we look at every day and what we open. So you have to know who your audience is and where they are. But I know I'm watching a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTubers that have these huge newsletters that are in their 20s and 30s. So I'm not saying it's only going to work for our age group. I'm just saying it especially seems to work for our age group because of the format in which these things are sent. So a newsletter basically is a letter that you are creating for a desired audience. Could also be more like a blog style post. You know, it could be a letter where I'm telling you all about my trip to, where did I just go? I just went to California last week. I was in Rancho Palos Verdes. It was absolutely gorgeous. And then the month before that, I was in Sedona. And next month, I'm going to be in Alaska. And then I'm going on a Gen X cruise. And so let's just say I had a travel newsletter, I might actually send you a letter and talk about the trip and the value of solo traveling. And maybe that my whole thing is solo traveling. That would work in that scenario. It's not as much like 10 things to do when you're in Sedona. That is more of a blog. A newsletter is more personal. It's more first person. It's my experience, my story. Here's why I stopped being an entrepreneur and became a solopreneur. Even there's a lot of food bloggers that are doing really well with these newsletters now. And they're writing from a first person standpoint. I was tired of having to manage the kids and the husband and every night figure out what was for dinner. So I came up with 30 one-pot meals, and here's how I did it. They're telling these stories, okay? So a newsletter is something that people can subscribe to for free, or you can charge for them. There's multiple ways that you can charge from them for them. Some people give away the newsletter for free, and then they monetize the newsletter with sponsorships. Like a sponsor will put an ad in the newsletter. If you've heard of the newsletter Morning Brew, I know that it's sold for buku bucks. They did a really good job. It was full of affiliates and sponsorship offers and things like that. Probably still is. I don't get that newsletter anymore. But I remember seeing lots of links to other people, or a banner ad or something along those lines. That's sponsors. Now, there's people that'll pay let's just say 4 figures for an ad on your newsletter that runs just that week. Or they might give you a 5 or even 6-figure contract to continuously run there. That's one way to monetize. Another way to monetize is through these paid recommendations that they have now, where you can actually recommend another writer that pays for you to reference their newsletter. You can monetize your newsletter with affiliate links. That's when you promote a product or service that's not yours and you get paid for it. I actually make 6 figures in affiliate income, not just through my newsletter. I do it through YouTube and webinars and coaching and blogging and Pinterest and Amazon influencer and TikTok shop. So I'm in a lot of those different places, but you will see it if you get my newsletter. And in that newsletter, I'm talking about my YouTube traffic engine, and I'm explaining to you how I'm able to how I'm able to run my YouTube business as a solopreneur by using these systems. I might link to one of my favorite softwares for you to go check out. And then you'll see a disclosure that says, I make money from affiliate links, no extra charge to you, that kind of thing. That's affiliate marketing. And it's a really, really good business for a lot of us. I enjoy that. It's my favorite way to actually make money, is through affiliate marketing. And then you have, it's never ending. You have digital products. So like I said, I now have an entire library, ballenpublishing.com, full of PDFs, ebooks, guides. Some people will sell their Notion templates or a Google Drive, spreadsheets, their flow charts, their templates, their AI prompts. Let's just say you like this idea of starting a newsletter, and I'll give you an idea for platforms in a minute too. But let's talk a little bit about what you could start and then look at monetization. So let's pretend that you love to share stories of let's just say you're a gardener. I use that all the time. You love to garden, and you want to talk all day long about gardening. Maybe let's go bigger than that. Maybe homesteading. That's such a popular one. Homesteading is. So you're going to start a homesteading newsletter. Excuse me if I say the word blog. I've been blogging since AOL said you've got mail, and my head goes to blogging because the processes are so similar. Although newsletters are easier. They're easier to create. You're using the same kind of template every time. So you don't have to be super creative about the design like we used to sweat over with our blogs and our themes and things like that. Well, I still do. I shouldn't say used to. I still do it. And you send out a newsletter, and this week you're going to talk all about canning, canning food. And next week you're going to talk all about growing your own produce. Maybe you're going to do a thing on container gardening, maybe you're going to do a thing on building chicken coops. I don't know, whatever it is, but you're going to send these newsletters in a story format. You're going to open a little bit with why you decided to build such and such chicken coop or start raising chickens. And then here's the problem that you were having, and here's how you solved it, kind of thing, right? Really important that whatever newsletter you're starting, it could be politics. Politics do really well. Finance does really well. Food still does really well. The food bloggers, the food writers, the recipe bloggers. Phases of life, transformation, divorce, self-help, wellness, midlife, all of those kind of phases, college students, career, wherever it is in your life, those tend to do really well. productivity, talking about being productive, does really well. If one of my hobbies is genealogy, so if I didn't already have my digital marketing experience, or I wasn't already blogging about age, which I do a lot of because I specialize in the mature content creator and helping them make more money online, then I would I would do more with the genealogy. And I like the first newsletter I would probably send is I found my brother's sisters. I had to try that one. I don't know. It sounds so funny to say it like that, but I've got a brother that has a different father. And when we were really, really little, I remembered the two sisters that were here before my little brother was here. And I met them and we hung out with them. And because the families were going to be blended, which didn't work out, as so many families don't. But my brother wanted to find them, and I found them through DNA. And then I wound up finding other adoptees and matching them with their parents. And it's become a passion of mine. So I could create a newsletter all about ancestry, genealogy, DNA. You know, I mean, that's a big topic that I could talk about all the time if I was passionate about it. By the way, before I forget, I took notes for you for this video so that you didn't have to. And I meant to say that in the very beginning. It's a new thing that I'm doing. So if you look below, you're going to see a little link there, and you can grab that and I'll send you the notes to this video. That'll probably be more helpful for you because there's a lot of information here, right? So the first thing that I would sit down and do if you want to do a newsletter is think about what you could write about, one article every week. What is it in your life that no matter what, you could write about every single week? And then what could you make these little social posts about? So one article per week, and then social posts. That could be LinkedIn if you're a business writer. It could be Twitter if you're a culture political writer. It could be Substack if you're, that has all kinds of different things. It could be posts on Facebook if you have an audience on Facebook, where it could be your Instagram stories or your reels, you're making little posts. So what could you write an article about every day and make at least one social post about every day? Because that's how you're going to build this attraction to your newsletter. And if you sit down and come up with a few of those ideas, that's the first place that you would go when you start your newsletter. Then you would say to yourself, who is my reader? Okay. So when I first started on Substack, which was I think I started October of last year. My first paid subscriber was January of this year. And then I became a bestseller, which you have to have over 100 paid subscribers. 4 months later, I keep getting confused between 4 months and 6 months. It's been 6 months now. So it must have been 4 months from the day of that I became a bestseller. So when I first started, I was writing kind of about, just generic how to make money online. But then that wasn't really going anywhere. And then I had a post go viral about my divorce, starting over again, and how I started over again as a content creator. What I realized was that I was attracting a lot of other creators, writers, bloggers, coaches, that kind of thing, that were also more over 40, primarily, not everybody, but primarily, that also had gone through transformation or were rebuilding or just wanted to cling to inspiration of growth potentially. So I realized that my reader is more of an emotional reader. They care more about the transformation and the story and then monetizing it, not just here's how to make money on Pinterest. Here's how to make money on, and actually I'm seeing this same thing starting to take place now on YouTube too. The storytelling side of things is starting to really climb on YouTube, where we used to do, here's 10 ways to make money on Pinterest. Now it's more like, we'll give more numbers or more emotion attached to it. Why I almost quit Pinterest, and then we'll tell a story about it and then explain how we transformed so people love those transformation stories as well. So what can you write about all day long? And then you're going to pick a platform. Now, it's very interesting to me because I went all in on Substack because I had coaching clients that were coming over and they were saying, we're on Substack, we're on Substack. And I kind of ignored it for a little while. And then one day I was like, let me just go see what Substack is. I kind of set things up. I wrote a few blogs here or there, not a whole lot. I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to it. It just kind of felt like another blog to me. And then I had this post go viral and I had thousands of subscribers start coming in, and then they started paying. So that's what got me interested, to be honest with you. I was like, whoa. I wasn't just going there just to write. I was going there because my coaching clients were there. I was like, well, if they're there, I should probably go see if there's something that I could help with or help guide them on. Since I live in content creation, I this is what I do full time. And Substack is really cool because it has a built-in audience. Like, it categorizes you and it shows your posts to people that are reading similar articles. And it has a recommendation engine where another writer can share your publication or they can share your post. And if the right writer shares your post, you can get a lot of subscribers from that. And then they even give you a little list that shows you who, they call it recommended, who recommended you and how many subscribers you've gotten from that recommendation. You can also see who you've recommended and how many subscribers they got from that recommendation, which is, it's just another good way to grow. Also, it's got a social feed. So when you're on the social feed and you're reading other people's posts, their little social comments or their notes, I'm sorry, we'll call those notes. They're writing their little notes. They're like, they're like tweet sized, basically. And you comment on that person's note, then all of the people reading their comments see your note and then they want to come check you out. So I like Substack for the built-in growth engine. Now, some people, they're famous or they're influencers or they've got a massive YouTube channel. They've got millions of followers on their socials, their Instagram, their blogs. They tell people, hey, I'm over on Substack now, come follow me, and boom, bestseller, right? They get all these people to come over. They make them the offer to subscribe and they're immediate. I didn't do that. I started from zero. I was not promoting it on YouTube. I was not telling people about the Substack. I just was in there kind of dabbling and playing with it. So I grew very organic and naturally. Now that I'm teaching Substack and how to build a newsletter on YouTube, now people are starting to come over to Substack and say, I found you on YouTube. I'm here because of you or whatever. Now it's growing somewhat from that, but that is not how it grew. So my first 5,000 subscribers were completely organic from the platform, and I have the stats to prove it. So they give you stats that actually show you where your subscribers came from. And I have a few in there from Google that Googled something and found the article. Maybe they Googled me and found the Substack, but not very many. Most of them, I think it was 88%, came from the Substack platform app itself. So Substack is a great way to grow. It doesn't cost you anything to be on there. So there's no risk. You just go in there and you just start writing about what you care about, what you're passionate about. Now, at the very top of Substack, there is a list of categories. So if you want to find out if there's really a space for what you're interested in, go in there and look at the different categories that they have and go look at the bestseller list and go, oh, there's like 4 people in the best top 100 that do what I do. It tells you there's a space for it. Now, earlier, before I got distracted by the cat, I was telling you that you really need to be careful about writing for, you need to identify who it is you're writing for. This is my number one tip for building a newsletter. Get really clear on who you're writing for. Now, in many cases, we're writing for somebody like us. They have this kind of interest like us. Okay. So let's just say if I were to get really, really finite, I mean, I don't necessarily write for just men or just women, but if I wanted to, I could say I help the mature woman creator make more money online. For the most part, I help mature creators make more money online. Okay. So who is my audience? They are over 40. a good majority over 50, and they are creators or want to be creators. And I'm also clear that most of mine are in beginner phases. I do have some, many already have some sort of a business, like they already have a coaching business, or they're already making money with affiliate marketing, or they're already making money with as a food blog, or they're already making money on YouTube, but they want to grow that platform and they want to add other platforms to that. That's kind of like who my audience is. So the fact that I know that my audience that follows me primarily wants to make money, I cannot go too far outside of that with all of my other interests. For example, if I suddenly go on now to Substack, so I have two publications. One is called The Real-Time Creator, and that's where I break down how I make money and everything I do to make money, and times that I failed and got back up, and what the systems look like to get me there, and lots of talk about being a solopreneur now versus an entrepreneur and how I'm doing those things. I always give the how. I give AI prompts, I give ebooks, a lot of guidance there. And then I started a second one called Fantastic Frameworks, where basically I do a deep dive breakdown into other bestseller Substack newsletters, so that we can all learn from these other bestsellers that are making money with their newsletters. So that means that every post that I do and every article I do has to be tied into making money as a mature creator in some sort of a way. So if I make a post that is just all of a sudden, hey, guess what? I found my brother or sister on genealogy or whatever, it's tricky because it dilutes the niche and the audience that I'm targeting. However, let's just say I want to create a midlife newsletter, and my newsletter is going to be for midlife women, okay? Midlife and beyond. So let's just say 40, my main focus is going to be 40 to 65, 45 to 65, somewhere in there, okay? Just pretend. Midlife ages are so messed up how they group that in. But let's just say that makes sense because I'm 55, so 10 years younger than me and 10 years older than me. So 45 to 65, that would be it probably is my main pocket anyway. Now, what are those women interested in? If you think about the time of our lives that most of us are interested in, we're probably still interested in making money, but we're also likely interested in more topics about empty nesting, health and wellness, hobbies, traveling. So if I'm going to build a lifestyle niche that targets a specific audience, I can talk about the interests of that audience, as long as there's not an interest in there that alienates everybody. I'll give you an example of one. I used to follow a guy, and I don't even remember the name of it anymore, but he was really big in the niche website space, building niche websites. And he used to do interviews, and I enjoyed watching the content. I wanted to learn, like, from the people he was interviewing. But he would get on there sometimes, especially with another guy, and they would totally go bro club, which I turn that stuff off almost immediately when that happens. And he was always talking about brewing beer. And he'd go off on a tangent about brewing beer. And I'm thinking, I have zero interest in brewing beer. I'm here to learn about niche websites. Now, it would be fine if you're using your beer brewing niche as an example. But if you just go off on a self-indulgent tangent about yourself and how much you love to brew beer, and your audience is not also interested in that, you start losing people. So I'm not saying you can't bring life in. You just have to ask yourself, is my interest also of interest to my audience? Okay. I'll give you another example. My cats. You see my cats on all my videos. You guys always laugh and love them and say, oh, I love when your cats get on videos. But when I post pictures of my cats on Instagram or pictures of my cats on Facebook, it goes nowhere. And I have to remind myself not to be a selfish creator. I have to say, nobody cares about the cats. I mean, they care about the cats, but that's not where they follow me. So if I'm posting something that I can see gets no likes, no comments, no shares, no subscribes, you stop posting it because it doesn't fit that audience. Now, if I was super passionate about being a pet creator and I want to blog about cats, or I want to start a newsletter about cats, or whatever it is, then that needs to be separate. And it needs to be on a separate username, and then I just need to post all about cats. I can't be diluting these things. Okay. So that is one really important thing about starting a newsletter. Now, there are other newsletter platforms. Beehiiv is really popular right now, but from what I'm looking at, these are really just email platforms. And also Kit, which is the one I've chosen to work with, and I'll put a link below, for my own mailing list, my own email list. So even though Substack has a subscriber list, it has your emails in there, I get lots of subscribers from all over other places. And I don't want to go put them into Substack because, one, you could get spam. They'll let you import, but if those people weren't signing up for the Substack app and all of a sudden you're emailing them through the Substack app, you're going to get high unsubscribes. It's going to hurt your deliverability. You could lose your account. So I don't like to do that. I like to keep an email list separately, and you can export your Substack subscribers into your email list as well. And I'm using Kit for that because I really like the way Kit has a lot of rules for if this subscriber comes in from this location, then add this tag, put them into this sequence, segment to this audience. And I like to build that way. So then the email lists that I'm building are very targeted for that specific user. If that user downloads my Pinterest guide, I want to make sure that I have a series of emails that appeals to the Pinterest user, and then I'm not suddenly spamming them with YouTube tips. You know what I mean? And then after they go through that funnel, then they wind up in a general kind of newsletter way. Now, Kit, you can charge. I just started putting all my ebooks in Kit. You can put your products in there and sell them. And it's really nice looking when you create, like I put in my Substack 101 guide the other day, and I sell those linked up to my YouTube channel, and I have a website where I sell them. And I thought, why not also put them in Kit? So then every time I send an email that would be appropriate, if I'm talking about Substack, I can drop in my Substack 101 guide. And as soon as I switched over to Kit, my ebook sales started really climbing. And so I like that little combo. But wherever you have your newsletter, some people are doing Kajabi, other people are still using MailChimp. Most of them have very similar things. I would tell you this. If you're looking at newsletter platforms today, outside of something like a Substack, where it's kind of an all-in-one built-in engine with no cost, which is nice, Kit definitely has a cost. If you're really just going to go all in on Substack, you're going to build your newsletter there. You're not generating leads from all these other places. You're only driving them to Substack. You don't need something like a Kit. But if you're like me and they're coming in from YouTube and they're coming in from Instagram and they're coming in from my blog and they're coming in from my Facebook offers, then it makes sense to do that. I forgot I was going to say something else, but I lost my train of thought when I was comparing those. Anyway, charging for your newsletter, I charge $20 a month for my paid breakdown newsletters. I give them a little bit at the top that's free. Then if they want to continue reading the rest, then they pay for it. They're not the same thing that I put on my blog. They're not the same thing that I send out to everybody for free. I don't like that people do that because that feels like, how could you charge $20 here and then you're giving it away for free over here? If somebody signs up for my free blog newsletter or whatever, they're getting really short little, tips or links or invites, announcements. It's not like my full, hey, here's how I do all this breakdown like they get from Substack. But you can sell your newsletter on Substack, and then you also could sell the exact same newsletter on Kit or in any of these other places. Stan Store is another one. And you could collect money through those and send the same thing to those audiences. That would be fine because then everybody's paying for it. So it's fair. Some people charge $5 for their newsletter. Some charge $8. I think Substack says 5 to 15 or something like that. Some of us go right for a bigger one, and mine's 20. And then what I do is I also give an annual discount. So if they sign up for the year, they get it for $150. So they're getting a really good discount if they sign up for that year. And then for mine now, I also do a book of the month club. I started writing ebooks and I charge for them. I make thousands of dollars a month selling ebooks, and I charge $27 for each ebook, but I give it to my Substack monthly subscribers or the annual subscribers. Every month I send out a book of the month club. I didn't do that at the beginning. I don't know if I would do that again. It was something I was just testing. It really isn't pushing up my numbers, but I kind of like it that they're getting this item of value every month. So we'll see. I may do that for a while and then drop that off afterwards. We'll see. So I hope that helps you with how to start a newsletter. Find out what you want to write about, identify the audience, make sure that the interests, anything that you're posting about, fits the interests of that audience. It's not a niche, it's a who. Are they interested in the same things that I'm writing about? And then set up your cadence, once a week article, twice a week article sometimes, and then how many times are you going to social post about that topic every day? Put a price tag on it, start getting your leads, and you've got a paid newsletter growing. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm Lori Ballen, ballenacademy.com if you'd like to join us for group coaching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.